going to allow you to sit any longer in your seats. I'm going to ask you once more to please kindly join us up on stage. We're going to go directly into the second round of investments at this point, and we're going to repeat exactly the process that we did earlier on, ladies and gentlemen. I will call up the commitments in clusters according to sectors. I'm going to ask once again that we exercise the same agility, the same speed that we used earlier. It's a fist pump, it's an elbow bump, it's a quick hello, and of course we have our official photographers in the front, and then we will hear from the President after that. And so, ladies and gentlemen, maybe let's give our Mr. President a round of applause so he can come and join us. Thank you, sir. I'm going to maneuver my way this way. Thank you. Kindly please stand, sir. Thank you very much. Much appreciated. Ladies and gentlemen, we're starting off with the French. A collective of French companies, through the coordination of the French Chamber of Commerce in South Africa, is committing to invest 50 billion rand in a number of sectors across South Africa, including in energy. Let's give them a big round of applause, please. Merci beaucoup to the gentleman on stage. We're moving on now to metal fabrication. Thank you very, very much. Mr. President, we're moving on now to metal fabrication, which we know is the backbone of the heavy industries. And so we're really excited to highlight 7 investments in this area this evening. Ladies and gentlemen, for your attention, please. Hangda Steel from the People's Republic of China is investing 300 million rand in a steel plant in Tabanchu in the Free State province.
Wow. In the Free State. Excellent.
Thank you very much. As I'm going to be very agile and scanning the room if a representative is present. Allow me to move on to Highveld Robust Steel, which is a black industrialist investing 800 million rand in a steel and vanadium manufacturing plant in Mpumalanga. Ladies and gentlemen, Nyanza Light Metals is a black industrialist investing 5 billion rand in titanium dioxide pigment manufacturing in the Richards Bay Industrial Development Zone in KZN. Thank you very much. Ladies and gentlemen, we're staying in the metal fabrication sector, and I'm going to SA Steel Mills, who are also a black industrialist, investing an additional 300 million rand in their steel production in Gauteng. Thank you very much. Ladies and gentlemen, we're moving on to SCORE South Africa, who are today committing their investment of 2 billion rand towards the expansion of their steel manufacturing plant in Gauteng. Ladies and gentlemen, we move swiftly along. I'm moving on to Vier Steel Mills, who are part of the Alfeco Group, today committing their investment of 3.5 billion rand in a steel manufacturing plant in Gauteng. And we are closing off the metal fabrication sector with a commitment from the United Arab Emirates, and this is Velocity Ventures, investing 470 million rand in an aluminium and steel plant in Gauteng. Thank you very much, sir. Ladies and gentlemen, we're moving on to what we have classified, Mr. President, as other manufacturing. And in this space, we are lifting the diverse set of expertise, and this is reflected in 8 investments this evening, Mr. President. Starting off with Royal Industrial from China, who are today committing an investment of 280 million rand in the manufacturing of porcelain tiles in Gauteng. Ladies and gentlemen, LVSA Group, a black industrialist, is investing today 204 million rand in the production of valves in KZN. Ladies and gentlemen, I'm moving on to DeFi, a subsidiary of Turkey's Arçelik, who today are committing an investment of 317 million rand in white goods manufacturing in KwaZulu-Natal. Ladies and gentlemen, we're turning our focus to the Ardak Group from Ireland and Consol, who are investing 1.5 billion rand in a new glass container production facility in Gauteng. Ladies and gentlemen, we're moving to Finland now. Huhtamäki today is committing their investment of 150 million rand towards the expansion of their packaging and manufacturing plant in KZN. Ladies and gentlemen, I'm moving on to Isanti Glass, a black industrialist investing 496 million in a glass manufacturing plant in Gauteng. Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am. I hope you heard that, Mr. President. I heard someone saying at the back, we need more women, and certainly that is the call. Ladies and gentlemen, I'm moving on to Tetra Pak, my apologies, from Sweden, who are today committing their investment of 500 million rand in the expansion of the Tetra Pak manufacturing facility in KZN. I think she deserves a round of applause. Yes, ma'am. Ladies and gentlemen, we are closing this group off with US multinational Procter & Gamble, who are today committing their investment of a further 450 million rand towards the expansion of their diaper plant in Gauteng. Ladies and gentlemen, that wraps up the sector titled Other Manufacturing, but it leads us beautifully to business process outsourcing, ICT, and digital services, Mr. President, where we're going to be highlighting 6 investments this evening. Starting off, ladies and gentlemen, from the United Kingdom, Sigma International is investing 267 million rand in the global business services sector in the Western Cape. I appreciate your brisk run, sir. Thank you very much. Ladies and gentlemen, we're moving on to Terraco. Terraco is committing a further 1.1 billion rand towards the construction of a data center in Gauteng and a renewable energy power generation for their facilities across the country. and we make our way to Pakistan, ladies and gentlemen. Airlift from Pakistan is investing 300 million rand in the e-commerce sector in Gauteng and the Western Cape. Thank you very much. Ladies and gentlemen, we move on to DD Global, who are today investing in a new e-hailing platform across South Africa. Can we give them a round of applause as well? Mr. President, we're rounding off this group of business process outsourcing, ICT, and digital services with Time Bank, who continues to expand their digital banking offering in South Africa, and today do that with 1.1 billion rand. They are not here this evening, but we do, of course, acknowledge. We are now moving on to our SEZs, or Special Economic Zones. Mr. President, we have 8 investments we'd like to highlight in this particular area. And I'm going to start off with a triad. These are 3 black industrialist companies who are investing in the Dube trade port in KwaZulu-Natal. LM Diapers is investing 75 million rand in the manufacturing of baby nappies. Smartway is investing 139 million rand in the manufacturing of TVs and mobile devices. And Synergy Blenders is investing 94 million rand in producing ingredients for the FMCG sector. Thank you very much, gentlemen. Thank you for observing the COVID protocol. Appreciate it. Mr. President, we stay in this sector, and again, we call up 3 companies who are investing in the Saldanha Bay Industrial Development Zone in the Western Cape. Ladies and gentlemen, it's my pleasure to acknowledge African Quartz, a black industrialist investing 1.5 billion rand in a PV manufacturing plant. I think we can give a round of applause to acknowledge Ancora Enterprises, yet another black industrialist investing 1.8 billion in shipbuilding and repair. And Cape Ocean Terminals is today committing 2 billion rand towards construction of a bulk fuel storage terminal. Ladies and gentlemen, can we give them all a round of applause, please? Ladies and gentlemen, rounding up this group of special economic zones, we're going to the Atlantis Special Economic Zone in the Western Cape. Everflow is investing 65 million rand in industrial refrigeration and green power microgrid systems for cooling. And Swartland Insulation is investing 106 million rand in an extruded polystyrene manufacturing plant. I do believe that we don't have representatives this evening, but can we please give them a round of applause in absentia? Mr. President, returning now to small business investment, because we know that the investment mobilization drive, the call was answered not only by big business, but small business alike. And so, SIFA, ladies and gentlemen, tonight committing 2.3 billion rand. And the NEF, the NEF, ladies and gentlemen, at 2.5 billion rand, please. We don't seem to have the National Empowerment Fund or SIFA with us, Mr. President, but I do. That is, please come up, Madam. Minister, thank you. Thank you, Minister. Thank you very much, Minister. Mr. President, we're closing it off with government funding. The work of a number of government departments and institutions, ladies and gentlemen, have helped to attract investment in South Africa, either by unlocking their own funding or through the execution of their mandates. And these include the following: the Industrial Development Corporation support for companies, black industrialists and SMMEs to the value of 20.1 billion rand. Mr. President is saying, please don't be shy. IDC, if you could come up and let's acknowledge you, please. Thank you very much. And then, of course, we continue with incentives by government, particularly for innovative technologies, brings investment to the value of 6 billion rand. A round of applause, please, ladies and gentlemen. Mr. President, we're closing it off with the work of our Trade Administration Agency, who have also assisted to unlock investment in manufacturing facilities and infrastructure, and that today is to the value of 427 million rand. Ladies and gentlemen, can we have a round of applause? Mr. President, that concludes the investment announcements for this 4th South African Investment Conference. I'm going to yield the stage to you, Your Excellency, as you reflect and respond to what we've heard today. Ladies and gentlemen, I will be back on stage to share some of the announcements around the dinner arrangements, and kindly request for you to please keep your seats once the President has addressed us. Thank you very much, Your Excellency.
Thank you very much, Program Director, ministers, business leaders, Dr. Adesina, premiers, and especially the Premier of the Gauteng province, who has been our host and has been with us all day. He dashed out for a minute to go and oversee the passing of the Township Economy Bill, which is now an act in the provincial legislature of Gauteng. Let's give him a round of applause. And I extend my greetings once again to all of you, ladies and gentlemen, distinguished guests. We have effectively come to the end of another, what I would regard as a very successful South African investment conference. It is a success that we relish, all the more because it is taking place in the midst of a global pandemic, a pandemic that has dampened the global investment climate for 2 years. I'm greatly energized by the enthusiasm, but let me add as well as the optimism of the investors and business leaders, those who have spoken on the stage, in panels, in the various breakaway rooms, but also those who have been chit-chatting with some of us as we've been passing each other in the passages and the corridors. I could feel, and you exuded, a spirit of great optimism and hope. You are essentially confident that South Africa is on the right track, despite all the challenges that we face. You see immense potential in both the traditional and emerging sectors of our economy. What has also been encouraging is that you share the belief that South Africa cannot be prosperous without a prosperous continent, our beloved continent Africa, and that investing in African economies is essential to the continent's development and progress. And that is why we brought Dr. Adesina here to be with us today, because in many ways, the bank is the repository of a lot of investments that take place on our continent. We've held constructive engagements in the spirit of common purpose, and I agree wholeheartedly with those who said that South Africa's COVID response has been a great example of how government, business, as well as civil society and labor can come together to resolve a challenge, and may I say a life-threatening challenge and an economy destruction or destroying challenge. And at the same time, the approach that we have had was to guide our economic growth and investment promotion efforts. That is why such conferences as this one are so important. Some commentators and journalists over TV, as I was watching, were saying, what's the use of all these conferences? Because the businesses were going to invest anyway. And it may well be true that they were going to invest, but as people, companies, and countries, we have a herd mentality type of DNA in us. As we see others rushing and moving in a particular direction, so we all join. So this conference also encourages those who may or may not be here to have confidence, to ask themselves, what is it that those who are investing see? And they follow suit. And I believe that many of you who are here, who are making your investments, you are investing because you're emulating some who have gone before you, some who have invested, and some have been investing in this market for 104 years, and some even earlier, and they are still here, and they become the leaders of that herd, and everyone else follows. So the value of these conferences is immense, because it does get people to see that South Africa is an investable destination, and we are indeed open for business and open for investments. And thank you very much for your investments today. Now, these occasions not only give investors a glimpse of what South Africa has to offer, but having us all in this room enables frank exchanges on exactly what the challenges are and how we can best resolve them. As some of the investors came upstage here, you saw me exchanging words with them, they were whispering in my ear and saying, Mr. President, we would like this and this to be opened. This type of legislation, this type of permitting should be done. And that is what the value of this is all about. So, were they lobbying? I don't know, but they were talking to me. 4 years ago, we set ourselves an ambitious target of raising 1.3 trillion rand, 1.2 trillion rand rather, over a 5-year period. The 80 investment pledges at today's conference come to a total of 332 billion rand. That was announced today. Now, if you are like me and you add up sums very quickly, with the pledges we have received today, and with the cancellations and additions we have heard about from investors in previous conferences, we've now taken the total level of investment pledge at the 4th investment conference to 1.14 trillion rand. Now, with just 1 year left to go, we have now reached 95% of the ambitious target that we set 4 years ago. What this means is that we now only have 60 billion rand short of our target to hit 1.2 trillion rand. Is that not a great achievement already? Now, I'm not a soothsayer or a magician or a prophet. I expect that by next year we will not only reach our target, but we are going to exceed that target of 1.2 trillion rand. The investment commitments that have been made here today are most impressive. They're impressive not only by virtue of their cumulative value of the investments themselves, but also by the sheer number and diversity of projects that they represent. Today, we've had commitments from many companies based here in South Africa, but also companies from a number of countries. And it's important that I should mention some of these countries, because there's been this notion that we're losing traction, the world is turning against us and all that. Now, the companies that have come forward to make pledges come from countries such as Belgium, Canada, China, the Czech Republic, Finland, France, Germany, Ireland, Mauritius, Norway, Pakistan, Sweden, Turkey, the United Arab Emirates, the United States, and the United Kingdom. That is a good collection of countries to have as your investors. Now, the sectors are in renewable energy projects, and we have the plans that will build some of the components that these projects will use. So some of these plans already exist in various parts of our country, from biogas to solar, from wind to battery storage. These investments are at the cutting edge of one of the most important growth industries in South Africa. There are investments that are breathing new life into mining, one of the country's oldest industries, and still one of the most important. Some had suggested that mining in South Africa is a sunset industry, but today's pledges, and some of the pledges we've had in the past, are a clear demonstration that mining in South Africa is indeed on the resurgence, and it is a sunrise industry. Through these investments, we will be expanding our production of the platinum metal group and other minerals that are vital to the emerging technologies of the future. It is pleasing that there are several investments in metal fabrication, as we saw here, and other manufacturing. The investments in steel, vanadium, aluminum, and other manufacturing plants all contribute to our ongoing effort to add value to the minerals that we mine and to create jobs that would otherwise have gone to more industrialized countries. We've been talking about beneficiation for a number of years, and having spoken about it, preached about it, we're beginning now to see more and more fruition. We have heard about investments that are giving effect to our ambition to produce our own vaccines and other pharmaceuticals, both for our country and for our continent, Africa. We're excited about the investments in our film, design, and other creative industries, where there is huge untapped potential and more than enough talent. I had the occasion just last week to go, or was it this week, to go to the Cape Town Film Studios and heard about how Netflix has committed, and it was announced earlier, quite a lot of money to produce some of their series and cartoons and all those things here in South Africa. But I also had the great privilege of talking to Anand Singh, one of our country's great film makers and producers, and he is here today with us. And he's building a huge studio in Durban, and he told me about billions that he's going to be investing. And I said, Anand, come to the conference. And he was supposed to go to some big conference or award evening in Lausanne in Switzerland, and he ditched them for us. And I'm glad that he's here with us. So Anand, thank you very much, but also thank you for the commitment that you and others in the creative industries are demonstrating to our country, This is one of the areas that I've also spoken about, even in State of the Nation addresses, about creating these new industries, supporting those who are in those industries and ensuring that we create a very good environment for people like Anand Singh, who struggled for quite some years to get the piece of land, which should never have happened, but finally it is all settled, and the studio worth more than 7.5 billion rand is now going to go on. And it's going to create thousands and thousands of jobs in Durban, in KZN, which is much needed. Today we've had confirmation of the export potential of the country's automotive sector and its continued contribution to developing emerging businesses through its value chain. And I had occasion when we opened one of those automotive centers, I think it was the SEZ here and with Premier Makura, to hear how this company is actually going to be supporting almost 200 small and medium enterprises from the townships, from Mamelodi and the surrounding areas. And already they are dealing with those companies and creating great value and creating good jobs. We welcome the investments in infrastructure and logistics, in property and telecommunications, which will help expand the capacity of our economy and improve its competitiveness. We have seen investment commitments in agriculture, our oldest industry, and in the digital economy, our newest. In the course of this investment conference, we've been given a sense of the value and potential of our special economic zones and of the important role that our development finance institutions and other funding agencies have in promoting growth and transformation. This investment conference has also provided us with a glimpse into the South African economy of the future, an economy that is rich and diverse and growing. It is pleasing that a number of investors here have spoken either on the platforms or in other places of conversation of the need to develop the skills of young people and to empower the women of our country. I want to thank you all for your attendance, for the investments, commitments that you have made, but above all, for being here as a demonstration of faith in this country. I want to thank the sponsors for their generosity. I met some of you last night, and I'd like to thank you because you helped to make these conferences very successful. And these are Anglo-American, Naspers, Vodacom, Exaro, South African breweries, Huawei, and Discovery. I also want to thank our partners, the IDC, Invest SA, and Proudly South Africa. But I also want to thank the Minister of Trade and Industry and Competition, Minister Ibrahim Patel, as well as the other ministers who serve on the Ministerial Committee, who have been working behind the scenes since the middle of last year to ensure that this conference succeeds. There was a time, yes, let's give them a round of applause. There was a time when I thought that COVID-19 had really dealt a devastating blow against these types of conferences where we bring investors together, but they soldiered on. Ministers continued meeting behind the scenes and making sure that this conference does take place. So when they brought it to cabinet and said we are proceeding, I was truly pleasantly surprised. So thank you, and give them a round of applause again. Now, I also have to give a special word of thank you to our investment envoys. When we appointed the investment envoys, people just sort of dismissed it and said, we're just adding people and you rely on people outside and all that. And I felt that we needed to have people who will play a particular special role, some of whom who are in business and some of whom who have been in government. And in their new roles, they play an incredibly positive and dynamic role. And they are Phumzile Langeni, Jaco Marie, Mcebisi Jonas, Trevor Manuel, Derek Hanekom, and Jeff Hadebe. I thank them for their commitment that they have continued to show, interacting with our investors, both here and offshore, and also fielding tough and difficult questions from investors and presenting the many opportunities of our country and always being very positive. Thank you very much, colleagues, for the work that you do. Now, I also want to thank the other people who really get things done. My economic advisor, Trudy Makaya, and the organizing committee, and all the government departments, agencies, and entities that have contributed to the success of this conference. Thanks should also go to our partners in business, in labor and civil society for the positive and proactive spirit that they have brought to the organizing process and for supporting the conference and its objectives. And of course, I'd like to thank the media as well for being here and for beaming the proceedings of this conference throughout the day, and those who've been streaming it and those who've been following it online, enabled by our media participants. So thank you very much. In conclusion, I want to recall what Adrian Gore, the CEO of Discovery, said this morning. He said, "We're having a tough time, but the future will be better. We must take a long-term view and must change the narrative." Changing the narrative about South Africa is really at the core of what we all need to do collectively, as government, as business, as labor, and community leaders. We are all in this together, and I'd like to thank you for standing by South Africa, standing by the people of South Africa as we recover. Not recover, as we recover and rebuild. As we build an economy that is diverse, that's vibrant, that is sustainable, and that benefits all the people of this great land. So thank you very much for making this conference successful and making South Africa peep into the future with great hope, knowing that we will indeed become the prosperous country that Nelson Mandela envisaged. Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir. Thank you. Thank you.
I want to also say thank you to our program director. She's just been outstanding. You've blown my mind. You've blown me completely. So I'd like you to take you along with me wherever I go to be program director.
Yes,
but
sir.
you're too busy. You will not be able to do it. Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Thank you. Ladies and gentlemen, just one or two announcements. Thank you very much for your attention. I promise to keep you only for 30 seconds. Starting off with a quick reminder that the President is hosting dinner. Dinner starts at 1900 hours sharp. We are kindly requesting that you might make your way to the 5th floor by 1845 to be seated so that we can start promptly at 7 p.m. We are going to have an excellent time this evening. We have a special guest, South African-born, renowned global investor, Dr. Patrick Soon-Shiong is going to be with us. You don't want to miss the fireside chat with him. We're also going to have a small business awards